I walk through the shadow of death left to fear. This is a journey through the halls of hell.
Yes people, what is good? I am BA, back again with a movie review for you. Now this week I want to talk about another one of my favourite films, Big Trouble in Little China. To me, this is John Carpenter's best movie and it is just insane and creative from beginning to end is how I would describe this film. Now most of you will have seen this before, but a quick summary is basically a truck driver called Jack Burton is taking his friend Wang to pick up Wang's fiancée from the airport where she's kidnapped by a triad gang. They chase these guys into an alleyway where they come across a martial arts battle during a funeral between rival kung fu clans. Then gods appear during the fight and the woman is kidnapped into a secret temple beneath a Chinese restaurant in the heart of Chinatown. And it's about Jack and Wang having to go beneath Chinatown into this temple to try and rescue his fiancée from the evil emperor who's called Lo Pan. And as insane as that opening sequence sounds, it gets even more crazy the further they descend underground as well. It's one of those ideas where on paper you'd be like, I mean, yeah, this is really creative, but will this actually work or just be too weird? And it just works perfectly for me. It's got that magic to it that a lot of 80s fantasy genre films have, even though this takes place way more in a contemporary setting for most of the movie, or at least has more contemporary characters in amongst the strangeness than the other fantasy movies of the 80s did. And like all the best fantasy films, it just throws brilliant ideas at you non-stop that you've never seen before. Of course, the gods that appear in the first segment of the movie were later used for the design of Raiden in the Mortal Kombat video games, which shows just even how these characters that showed up in the opening scene and several scenes later in Big Trouble in Little China, their designs were so good they were taken and made into another iconic character in a completely different intellectual property. And even more cool ideas are shown just in the opening scene. You know, one of the two gangs are all wearing white karate outfits and they take the gold poles they were using to carry the coffin with and use them as weapons, so they're all in like white gis with gold poles and they're fighting a rival gang in black and red gis who have a strange mixture of weapons, everything from swords to double machine guns. I think as well the giant floating eyeball thing that shows up later was probably the basis for those floating things in the Doom video game, so the designs in this movie have influenced several other intellectual properties in my opinion. It's also one of those films where you forget how good it actually is until you watch it again. Even though it is one of my favourite movies, whenever I watch it I forget how just relentlessly entertaining it is in a way that you can't do nowadays, because acting performances have went for ultra realism, which is more subdued, the dialogue's less snappy and witty because that's how realistic conversations happen. There's more pauses, there's less dramatic facial expressions because all these are more in tune with reality. However, when the 80s and 90s did that slightly hyper-realisticness, it allowed them a platform to make everything so entertaining at the expense of realism. So it just depends what sort of mood you're in, because I like watching realistic slow dramas as well, but I have a special place in my heart for something that is just non-stop entertaining you from start to finish. This is the true definition of a movie that's a roller coaster, because you do enjoy the journey. Every moment of it is something different, interesting and entertaining. You never know what's round the next corner, and at the end of it you're just so satisfied and happy from having done it. The true tragedy is it's so hard to find any other movie that's quite like this. If you like Big Trouble in Little China and feel like something else, there's nothing else really there. This is a one-of-a-kind film. If they tried to remake it, it would be filled with CGI and would be terrible. If they tried to make a sequel, they'd just be retreading the same steps as they had in the original. It is absolutely perfect in every way. One of Kurt Russell's best movies. Kim Cattrall also shows up in this movie, and in my opinion, this is Tim Burton's best film hands down. I do not know what he was smoking when he wrote this script, but it has to be some of the finest produced and cultivated Sweet Mary Jane that this world has ever seen in the history of human existence. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, put on Big Trouble in Little China. It will absolutely entertain you from beginning to end. It's a great movie and I absolutely love it. If you've liked this reaction, click like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, share these videos around, come and join the Patreon gang and help support me, and until next time, I have been BA, peace.